Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, Missouri. These 4 states have had, well, pretty much passed anti-abortion laws. And like snowflakes, neither of these states have the same thing in mind. So here's what I'm going at. In Missouri, just last week, Republican lawmakers, this is kind of funny, Republican lawmakers had passed an anti-abortion bill saying that if the pregnancy is 8 weeks long, we are not liable to terminate the pregnancy. A few weeks ago, Georgia said, "I'll do you one better." Let me go back for a second before I do that. Along with the 8-week limit, those who suffer a miscarriage would spend 5 years in prison, and those who commit to an abortion would spend 15 years. Going to Georgia, the one I just said, "I'll do you one better." Their limit is 6 weeks. And those who have had a miscarriage are looking at 10 years, and those who commit to abortions, the doctors, they're looking at 30 years. Alabama just said, "Hold my beer." Alabama said, when you found out that you were pregnant, forget it. Now, while I don't know the limit or the sentence for miscarriage, if you have an abortion, the doctor gets the abortion done, you're looking at 99 years in prison. So, ones who commit an abortion, ones who perform an abortion, are spending more time than a rapist. How does that make sense? This is a clear demagoguery bill, a demagoguery law that is being passed around these Republican states. And they're saying that this is pro-life. What this is a restriction on women. These are men who are telling women, you're going to get pregnant, and I'm going to say, well, sucks to be you. Not my problem. Now, as a guy who's still a virgin, I should have no say in this. But, as a guy who's had a family member raped, forget it. I'm not saying anything good about this. I've said it before in my last video, which was completely out of sync. But my sister, when she was 12, was raped. The guy who did this has spent time in prison. I mean, he is probably out now, which is scary enough. He could do this to another little girl. Speaking of little girls, there is still that case in Ohio where an 11-year-old girl who was raped by a man has to go through the pregnancy. The man has now sued to gain custody of the child. This guy is in prison for who knows how long, and yet they're saying, look, we want to take care of the baby. This is a clear constitutional violation of Roe v. Wade. Now, I know a lot of people have been in and out and in and out about Roe v. Wade, about whether abortion is legal, whether we are permitted to have that. And this isn't, oh, I forgot to wear a condom and I knocked someone up. Oops. No. This is someone grabbing your throat, pushing you down, ripping your clothes off, and then forcing themselves into the woman. I'm not going to say anything else. This is YouTube. If you want to learn about this, go to sex ed classes. I did. They say this is about pro-life and that they're following the Bible. These evangelicals. Please. If they were following the Bible, they would realize that the Bible is pro-abortion. Don't believe me? There are entries involving Numbers, Exodus, and a couple others that I could list down below in the description below. But what I'm trying to say is, these are not Christians. And that they're saying this is pro-life. Well, let me clarify something here. So you're telling me that you don't care about children being separated at the border for families who are seeking asylum from hostile countries, and then let them die, which a fifth immigrant child has died, by the way. But you don't want the little girl to get an abortion after she's been raped. You're telling me that the Flint water crisis that is pretty much killing off wildlife and permanently damaging the people among Flint followers, and you're saying that you want to keep the baby inside, you want to keep that zygote inside the woman? You're telling me that you don't care about children who have a widespread. You know how angry I get. So you're telling me that poor people who, for some reason outside their own boundaries, can't get health care, can't get Medicare, Medicaid, they can't afford anything for their families, but yet you want to keep that baby inside a woman's belly even though she doesn't want it? Where's the logic in this? Where's the logic that says, oh, you are suffering from stage 4 throat cancer, and I see that you're pregnant. Well, look, we cannot perform Look, we want you to carry the baby. We don't want you to risk the baby's life at all. There are now, Missouri and Georgia have exceptions for the rule. If the pregnancy can be terminated if it risks the life of the baby or the mother. There are no exceptions for other states that have done this, as far as I'm concerned. This is demagoguery. This is barbaric. This is unbiblical, unconstitutional. And let me go back to Missouri once, because the guy who made this ruling, one of them was State Representative Barry Hovis, and you're gonna love what he comes up with. when explaining this whole anti-abortion thing. And this is Rich. He says, let's just say someone goes out of the way and they're raped or sexually assaulted one night after a college party. Because most of my rapes were not the gentleman jumping out of the bushes that nobody had ever met. There was 1 or 2 times out of 100. Most of them were date rapes or consensual rapes, which were all terrible. Wait a minute. Consensual rapes? Consensual rapes. So you're telling me that you are allowed to rape someone and then have it as consensual? What is this? Hentai? I mean, no. If you were raping someone, you're having sex without their consent. You are forcing yourself on them. That's rape. If you want if you wanted to have that baby and you say, let's do it. Good. Let's get that Viagra out there. Yeah. That is consensual. You cannot have consensual rape. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Of course, Hovis has since apologized and said that he spoke out of turn. He misspoke. Yeah. He says, he did say that there is no such thing as consensual rape. He just misspoke. But it does bring up this whole thought process upon Republicans. And speaking of Republicans, there's a bit of a Republican on Republican crime across the Atlantic. Andrew Neil of BBC went on to talk to Ben Shapiro about this anti-abortion bill, about this removal of women's rights, about this, we need to take care of the baby, but we don't want to take care of it when it comes out. In which I can, if you've gone to the last video and you found my link to that conversation, you'll see it again. But it's still just funny watching Ben Shapiro just break down again upon another conservative. And that conservative is smart. Not Ben. Andrew Neil. That's the guy. So, for those people who are trying to say that, hey, look, we're just trying to protect the baby. Are you protecting the baby? Or are you trying to you're just trying to make the women a baby-making oven? Here's what I mean. These Republicans are refusing to give women's rights. They've done as much as men do. And yet there's always that wage gap between men and women. There's also that wage gap between blacks and whites, but that's a different subject of all. But let's think back to a minute. We no longer need to listen to people like Barry Hovis, who has since come out looked like Todd Aiken, who came out with the whole legitimate rape. Yeah, back then it was back then in 2012 that was legitimate rape. In 2019 it's consensual rape. Women deserve as much right as men. If it was just a mistake with a condom, well, that's their mistake. But to force little girls as young as 5 years old and tell them, no, you are having that baby. Who are you protecting? That little zygote that doesn't have a heart yet? Or the child? Or your own demagoguery? Your own beliefs of that Christianity where murder is a sin. Which, yes, it is, but the baby's not even there yet. So your argument is bogus.